Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Lauren Perlman of Lion Public Adjusting, a California public insurance adjuster who left his old company to build an ethical advocacy firm from scratch. Lauren is a military veteran with a psychology degree, and he brings a unique approach to a tough industry, focusing on health, safety, and a choose your hard philosophy. Every entrepreneur sails through predictable phases, and once you learn to recognize them, everything changes. I'm Lynette Young, and this is the Entrepreneur's Voyage. Whether you're starting, soaring, sailing, or somewhere in between, you're in the right place. Stop surviving your business. Start navigating your journey. Welcome, Lauren. I am so glad to have you onto the Entrepreneur's Voyage. I would like you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your company, but most importantly, tell me about the industry that you're in and who you serve.
Well, my name is Lauren Perlman. I am a licensed California public insurance adjuster. I am about 1 year. I started this company last January into my own business. And what I do is I provide advocacy and representation to property owners who are in need of help while they are navigating the nuances of filing and arguing their insurance claims. So I've represented policies for marine insurance, commercial insurance, residential insurance, contents only claims, people's stuff, theft, vandalism. I'm in my 6th year in this industry and I've managed over 350 claims. So,
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
California, you must have hit some fires too.
Yeah, I mean, that I would say that my favorite claims to adjust are fire claims. It's a lot easier to peel the onion, so to speak. But the vast majority of the claims that come through are water damage claims. Rarely do we get weather claims here in Southern California. We pay for our weather here, so.
Yeah, you do. It's 72 and sunny all the time.
I'm fortunate enough to have purchased a home. I think we did it in 2016, but you're absolutely right. In dealing with fair rental value assessments for my other clients, I am appalled at how expensive it is for monthly rent here. I just recently got a client, I think it's over 50 grand a month.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, they did live in a very luxurious home that was completely destroyed, but still, it's insane to think that those are rental
that
costs in our
that's
area.
bonkers. That's
Yeah,
bonkers. So
yeah.
one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because you've been in this industry, you said 6 years, but it's 1 year you've been out on your own. So you've started up your own company. So what kept happening at other companies that prompted you to want to start your own?
I wanted license over how to manage my interactions with my clients. I wanted to be able to spend time advocating for them without any pressure to sign a contract. I wanted to be able to have more control over my delegating and creating a process for documenting claims and how I would manage disclosure to them. I was told by 3 previous companies that the amount of work that I was doing in representation was exhausting and too much, right? I wear a lot of hats in what I do. I don't come from an insurance background. I see a need and I aim to fill it, right? So, over my short tenure as a public insurance adjuster, I go to damn near every inspection. I ask really strong questions when I don't understand what's going on. I've met with and have mentors that are structural engineers, mechanical engineers, abatement companies, mitigation companies. I've self-taught myself all these different trades in this industry, and I bring some element of all of them into every claim that I'm investigating the facts on, right? So understanding how to expedite hygienist testing and when it's necessary, and how to target samples on any given type of loss, understanding what the impact of the mitigation and demo of a claim is and how it drives the scope of repairs, justifying the work that these vendors do. There's something called UPPA, Unauthorized Practice of Public Adjusting, and a lot of vendors get caught up trying to argue outside of their scope of authority. It's a really weird thing that I, with no licensing or credentials in any of these trade specific jobs, am the only one other than an attorney authorized to negotiate or argue with an insurance company. It's not the vendors actually performing the work. I can't say I haven't struggled with, this feeling of the imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
When I do not envy the first 10 claims I represented. And it's 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 been
That,
a it's been
it's a shame that you actually need to do the work, but the training wheels are still on, right?
yeah. And I have a lot to learn. I'm not going to claim to know everything. I know a lot of a little bit of everything, right? And I'm really keen on recognizing when somebody else needs to be brought in and justifying that to insurance companies. There's nothing more frustrating than bringing in a vendor to write a report and estimate on a claim, and the insurance company turns around and says, "No, we're just going to defer to our own." It's like,
Hmm.
based off of what? You're not more competent than this CIH we brought in here. How are you able to just ignore it? So that is the battle in this industry. It's getting an insurance company to acknowledge your work product is legitimate.
Yes, and it's getting more difficult very quickly.
Yeah.
So the switch from being a public adjuster, like the actual practitioner of doing the work, and it seems that some of the reasons, the catalyst for you wanting to reach out to your own company is other companies have other owners and they design the way that they want their company run and the way that they want their either 1099s or W-2s, because it's pretty common in the industry to have one or the other to work. And if that doesn't work, like what are your choices? Stay there, quit and go do something else, or do what you've done and start a business. But there's got to be a big difference between being the practitioner of a public adjuster and then running a public adjusting company. So you made the leap, right? So I looked back at your bio. You're a military veteran. So thank you very much for your service, Lauren.
Appreciate
Much
that.
military in my family. You have a psychology degree. You have tons of industry experience. Some people would say 6 years isn't that much, but honestly, I feel that some of the folks that have been in it 20, 30, 40 years, they're old dogs and they don't learn new tricks. So being newer in the industry is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's important to continuously flood the industry with new eyes, right?
Mhm.
We have a constantly evolving understanding of how pervasive damage is and what the health and safety impacts for improperly remediating damage to your property can be. At the end of the day, what I'm really focusing on is health and safety, right? I'm not just a consumer advocate. I'm a claims therapist. I would even argue a well-paid social worker, right? There's a lot of issues that can't be presented to the insurance company that when they are packaged appropriately by somebody like me, I can incorporate them into my arguments. Like I had a client that lost a toe. We suspected it came from an insurance company refusing to acknowledge the category of the water that vented out of a sprinkler system. And I was able to push the needle by arguing that this was a concern, right?
He
So,
actually lost a piece of his body.
yeah, so he had a rogue bacterial infection in his big toe, and it ended up getting amputated. And we went out and tested for, and this again is from my experience in the industry over years of adjusting claims. I've now realized that where microbial contaminants are concerned, people should start testing for what's called SIRS, SIRS, systematic inflammatory response syndrome. These are things that aren't well known, but are like blood markers for bioaccumulation of contaminants in somebody's system. Now you have to ask, where did those contaminants come from? Where did they get exposure from it? Did it exist prior to the loss, right? So again, wearing a lot of hats and having a lot of understanding about all these different parts of the industry, you never know where a piece of information is going to lead you.
That's amazing. So you very much have, that how the processes work and the people and the types of people and professionals that you need to bring in to help your clients. So I feel also that having extensive experience in your industry as well too as an outsider, that when you're an employee you can't always say, well, I think we need this type of person or an IH, or like you can't necessarily have that control to bring that into your firm. or on a claim because you're not running it, right? You're somebody else is looking at the
Yeah.
bottom line and they're the ones saying, oh, well, that's going to take 2 points off of our prop, things like
Yeah.
that. So that's, I mean, I would probably want to start. I mean, I have started businesses and for probably less serious reasons than that.
Well, I think one of the things that are worth noting too is that I didn't agree with how profits for the companies were being allocated, right? Like there's this industry trend where when people find success, they start to bloat themselves with employees. And I didn't see a justification for 5 admins. And when I'm making on average less than 30% of the total profits I've made for a company. This industry trend that I see where vendors, they find success, they start building up a larger employee base, work gets slower. Now there's a harder drive to make more profits to sustain this bloat for employees. One of the biggest issues that I had working for prior companies is that at my peak, I was working like over 80 claims a year. And it was a lot of work. And I was making 30% or less of the total profits that I was making for my other employers. And I came to them, I said, I don't think that the amount I'm earning for the amount of profits I'm making for the company are congruent. And ultimately, they let me go to hire other employees who come to find out they hired 2 people for the cost of me. And neither of them worked out with that company. So, I mean, it's all trial and error. Everybody's going to try it their own way. At the end of the day, I'm not here to tell other people how to do their job. I am unique in that I will never have to face feast or famine. I have military benefits from my 11 years in the Coast Guard. Making that leap to start my own business was scary, but it would have been a lot scarier if I didn't know that my bills would be paid. I've kept my overhead low on purpose because I know there's going to be dry spells in this industry. We have more caution than ever from homeowners and property owners to file claims because, especially in California, they're worried about rising premiums and carriers leaving the state. A lot of people have been getting their policies canceled. You can't set yourself up for success by building this giant framework that can't be supported if business doesn't come through.
Yes.
So I'm doing it the opposite way. I'm building the framework to have protocols and procedures in place that I can build on without worrying about whether or not I can afford them. So this last year has been trials and tribulations on making sure that the boat floats. I'm confident that it does. This industry is cool, but it is a challenging one. You know,
It's not for the weak. I will say that.
No, it's not. Every day is a challenge. Every single day. I spend about 10 hours on the phone. The vast majority of the calls are not even fruitful. It's just me making sure that I'm managing other people's expectations.
So that's actually a good segue because in the framework that I teach, 7Cs, which is funny because you're a coastie.
I do love your 7Cs analogy.
I'm a mermaid, you're a coastie. It's good. That usually I see that within the first 2 years of a business, right? It's they need, especially in businesses that have peaks and valleys of the season, like your business. If you're good with your dailies, you know, you have a strong base business, but a lot of businesses also ebb and flow with either holidays or the weather or thing like that. So I see it's a 2-year cycle to get up and running, but you obviously have had prior experience doing this work prior. It's not like you bought a franchise like a McDonald's. Like, I don't know, have you flipped a burger before kind of thing, but
yeah.
Have you ever owned a business before this?
You know, I started a couple joke companies when I got out of the military. One was called Parent Centric, which was a line of products for parents that were more concerned about their needs being met than their children's. It was joke, like one of them was a tantrum bubble. You push a button on a backpack and it just envelopes a kid so that they can scream all they want in their bubble. It was like a perimeter fence, that would vibrate a collar on an ankle or something. Like, really inappropriate products. That never got off the ground for obvious reasons. The minimum viable product was actually called a Boozy, which was a bottle koozie.
I love it. I love it. So this is
And
your first forte into a serious business.
yeah, and then I actually almost had another business launch. It was called Bar Logic. I built a encrypted communications network for entertainment industry, like bars and restaurants, so that they could collect data from scanned IDs and purchase history from the people coming in to their restaurants, and they could like say, okay, this person's 86 for the next 2 hours, water only, or something like that, communicated to the rest of the restaurants. That got shot down by a law group because I was collecting personal data. I was like, banks do this all the time. Yeah,
That sounds like a great idea to me. I love
it,
that.
it was a great idea, and I'm sure somebody will pick it up and do it later, but that was a venture that I did through an entrepreneurial program while I was at SDSU, and then moved on from there. I was at the Zahn Institute while I was there. It was a really, really cool program. All ages you can get involved there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So normally I would have put you in the starting seat because that's like everyone's starting point. But after talking to you for a little bit and seeing kind of some more about what your business looks like right now, I'm putting you in the soaring C. Things have skyrocketed for you very quickly. So for everyone listening, soaring C is where everyone thinks they want to be, but sometimes things go so far so quickly ahead of you, like you're keeping pace. And I will say there's nothing like rapid success to find your biggest problems. So in a year, you've grown your team, you have opportunities coming your way that weren't even here 6 months ago. Like, what does your day to day look like now that you're actually running a company and doing and functioning? You're the owner operator within that company.
Well, I should say first to give some context for this. When I was managing 80 claims a day, or yeah, I guess a day, 80 claims at a time, my work routine was insane. I was waking up at 6 a.m. and working till midnight, working through weekends. It was a very time consuming job with that many claims. My motivation to go out on my own was I did the math and I realized for a third of the claim load, I could make the same amount of money if I went out and did this on my own. And with that time that's been given back to me, I have a much more stable daily work schedule. I'm usually working from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I take calls throughout the entire evening, and my admin usually gets done in the evenings because of how much time I spend talking to people during the day. Mondays and Fridays, I keep dedicated for admin as much as I can. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm usually out in the field inspecting properties, working to network and build awareness for my company. So when work is slow, we double down on lunches. This is an industry that is largely built on handshakes and trust. It's really easy to pump out a bunch of SEO telling people how great you are, but if they can't meet with you face to face and build that rapport with you, you're not going to be getting leads from them. And SEO on this side of the industry is difficult to navigate because there's so many different types of insurance. Delegating how SEO targets your market is not easy. When I paid into Google and Yelp ads, I was getting a lot of calls for like people that were upset about filing claims against their airline tickets. I mean, that's not what I do.
Yeah, you
So,
forgot how actual insurance is out there, but your property
yeah,
insurance for the
but
most part.
grassroots marketing is really my bread and butter. I think I excel with business development more than anything else. You know, I'm tall, gregarious, outgoing. I've been told I'm intelligent. My inquisitiveness and my curiosity, I can add value to any given situation. I still feel confident that if I had to shift gears and change industries, I'd find success in whatever I do just because of my work ethic. It's
Yeah.
that is the biggest challenge for me right now. And scaling is finding people that are a good fit for this industry. I'm not just going to hire anybody. And personally, I don't really care if you have experience in this industry. I'm looking for aptitude. I'm looking for type A, motivated, hungry people that want to make a name for themselves. And the vast majority of people that have come through my doors want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
You have to be able to wake up in the morning, build the boxes you want to check out, prioritize what's most important, make sure that you're staying 10 steps ahead of the problems that are eventually going to come through your doors. And it took me years to figure out how to manage that on my own. The one fortunate thing on the prior companies that I've worked for, They all left me to my own devices. Nobody gave me guidelines. Nobody gave me instructions. Nobody told me how to build out my business. I took ownership and went out and did it on my own. The only reason I'm really able to start my own company is because, from my perspective, I was already running my own shop for the years prior. I was just like told, hey, let us know when checks come through.
Yeah, and you're just slapping LLC around your existing processes and you're fine.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. I won't say that I didn't take pieces of every experience that I had to build and add on to my own process, but largely what I do is my own work product that I've spent the last 5 years building out.
Nice. So that actually leads me into the 4 Ps, because in our framework, each C, and your C would be soaring, has 4 Ps that go with it. That is either a main sail or a head sail. So a main sail giving power, a head sail providing direction. So process is one of the 4 Ps when it comes to soaring. So we were just talking about that, about how you design your process for a specific claim, but then you've got a process for bringing in people into your company, probably a process for prospecting. Do you want to talk about some of the systems that you're building, that, or how you're building those systems without compromising the of what you're trying to produce?
First and foremost, as far as hiring new people, I'm not motivated to scale without having the right people. I could care less whether or not another person is interested in working for my company. I have space available for the right person. When they come, I'm prepared. Like my other public adjuster, she's got 16 years on the carrier side, and she is an invaluable asset. She tried working for other PA firms and it didn't work out. And I chased after her as hard as I could the second I found out she was going out on her own. And we've changed our approach on how we adjust claims. We do it with each other. So it's not your claim, my claim. One of us takes a lead and the other one plays support. And we split commissions really fairly, right? So that's the biggest benefit for anybody that would be interested in working with my company, is that I am very clear that equitability is one of the strongest motivators in this industry. I am not going to lowball their efforts. They will be rewarded, right? So where Chelsea takes a water claim, especially if she goes and finds it on her own, I take 40, she takes 60. I don't know any other public adjusting firm that's doing that. And I'm okay with that. She's her experience and background. I want to reward her. I want her to be here. And she's been here for about 4 or 5 months. She's still very much in the phase of loading up her book of business. She grew up in San Diego. I've lived here since 2011. We have so many different commonalities with the relationships we've built over our time living here. That network is starting to realize how big of an asset we can be. And it takes time to build that up. So I'm not pressured to grow. We can sustain it with our MVP, which is what we're doing right now. I would like to, in the next 10 years, the goal is to build a business that it has a reputation of training competent and capable public adjusters. Whether they stay with me or not, I think that this industry is understaffed.
Yes.
There's less than 3,000 licensed public adjusters in California for over 40 million homeowners and growing.
Yeah.
We don't have this
We
same
could do 100 times how many public adjusters and there still wouldn't be enough.
Exactly. It's insane that this industry even exists. I still believe insurance companies should be taking ownership over their claims and managing the way that I do. But the fact of the matter is, your desk adjuster might have 50 to 100 claims on their desk. You get put into a queue. And then when they get back to you, that's when it gets addressed. You have these statutes of limitations on when things should be done by the Department of Insurance. But I'm yet to see any insurer care.
Yes, they have their way. So you're a small lean company. So bringing in Chelsea, are you letting her to her own devices about how she wants to work claims, or are you kind of saying, here's a framework, I'd like you to follow that, fill in the rest? Like, what does that process look like for you?
So I have some benchmarks that I expect us both to meet. And then after that, we aim to bring in outside vendors, whether they're from the carrier or the insured side, to go through the comparative bid process. But if I can't push the needle far enough by resolving disputes through the comparative bid process, then we start having a discussion about whether or not litigation or appraisal is necessary. I will say one of the biggest challenges that I've had is deciding when I'm done.
Yes. When's
How
it
do you
time to hand
how
the
do
baton over? Yes.
how do you exit a claim? Early on in my experience with this industry, I was taught hold on to that claim as long as possible. I was like, well, how do you balance expectations, the amount of time it's going to take to do something, and the amount of money that could be resolved? I do think that when you look at this from a profit only perspective, the human element of this process gets lost in the mix. With my psychology degree and my management experience from the military, I'm acutely aware of the human impact. And I'm always going to be conflicted with that. Telling a person, hey, you need to rip your home apart if you want to have a legitimate claim. I'm always going to be conflicted with that.
So that brings us into perseverance, which is sustained effort when things are working and when to kind of let go. So you had mentioned that sometimes it's hard to know when working with a client needs to be bumped up to the next step. And in your industry, it's generally referring them to a first party claims attorney or having that really hard conversation of, I would guess, like destructive testing, things like this, that just they feel like you're going backwards before you're going forwards.
Yeah.
So that combined with the fact that you can't help everyone, how do you kind of take that on?
Oh man, I can't help everyone. I really had a battle with myself earlier this year. Like I said, I spend 10 hours a day on the phone. And sometimes these calls are just really hopeless situations. And I want to give them advice. I want to take the time to speak with them. But once they have your cell number, you're getting calls at 9 o'clock at night. Like, you're not going to work with me. Like, I can only give you so much, right? I used to really overextend myself. And I realized that in overextending myself for working for free, that the people that suffered were my team and my family. I can be Jesus on the cross all day. I don't mind doing that. I thrive under pressure, but I had to do an inventory of the other people that were being affected by that. And I didn't realize how big of an impact I was having on just being available for my kids. So reminding myself that there's more to the equation than what I want has always been a challenge for me. But over this last year, I let go a few claimants that I could have held on to that might be fruitful in a year or two, but I didn't feel comfortable being on standby for free. And the amount of work that it took to work for free, because these were very challenging clients, I think is a good way to say it. I've battled with myself. You don't want to let them go. You're admitting losing is really what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I don't like losing. So
I do a personality trait right there.
Yeah, I do a really good job at vetting work opportunities with people to make sure that it's mutually beneficial for everyone. And if it's not, I'll leave before I hold somebody hostage.
So that actually goes into one of the P's for soaring, which is prosperity. So in here, it's not prosperity isn't revenue. It's like sharing wealth and sharing capabilities with other people. How are you balancing that need for consumer advocacy and need to be able to help people with the need of having to make revenue because now you and your family and now other people, as you bring them into your company, are dependent on, and actually your clients too. Your clients are depending on what you do for them to be able to have money to like fix their properties. Like, how do you balance that need to be able to do that and not lose, and the need to actually make revenue at the end of the day?
Well, I do think that given how small this industry is, I am still an essential worker. It doesn't take much to get business in this industry. I walk away from a lot of work, and that financially has not been the most profitable position to take. At the end of the day, my goal is to be an advocate first. And I believe that the trials and tribulations of having a solid core of ethics and a strong moral code will build business over time, and it'll be a lot more sustainable that way than looking at every opportunity as a meal ticket. So again, I do a really good job at keeping my overhead low. I do have some guaranteed income from my military service. When things are slow, it's easy for me to scale down or shift gears, I think is a better. We're going through the holiday seasons right now, and there's not a lot of work during this period of time, but my experience over the short tenure I've had here is that this is a great time to go out and shake hands and meet people and make sure they remember who you are. So Chelsea and I have been going on a lot of lunches this last month just to make sure that people are aware of our business and that we have all these user case scenarios where we can be of service to people. A lot of general contractors, mitigation and companies, hygienists will call us to have us add value through policy interpretation or questions of coverage. And we're happy to do that for free. So we're also really clear. We don't care if you call us with a question. If we can't get involved, we want to be of service no matter what. Over the years, what I would like to develop is kind of our own little training platform. You know, one of the unique things about public adjusting is that there is no playbook. You know, insurance companies have internal guidelines, policy language, all these things that they have to adhere to get licensed as a public adjuster. It's pretty much taking a 20-hour course on ethics, and it doesn't really apply any knowledge or understanding for how the construction of a home is built, how smoke permeates throughout a property, moisture wicking, water migration. All these things are experiential in the public adjusting industry. I would caution anybody to work with a public adjuster that doesn't show up for inspections or offer up any additional validation for the work that's being performed on their property. You know, when a mitigation company goes out to a property that I'm on, I go out and I validate their moisture map and look for additional damages before they do the demo. And then we do a post-demo inspection to make sure that all the appropriate material has been removed, that their demo is logical and makes sense, that the documentation is airtight. I don't make things move faster because I'm purposely slowing things down to look at it at a granular level. One of the things that I've been cautioned with is that there's a lot of vendors out there that will sign contracts with insureds and then defer to everybody else's work. That's not what I want to build as a company. Really cool kit of tools. Thermal imagers, variety of moisture meters. I have a drone. I use iGuide, which is really powerful. I use high quality cameras and production lighting to make sure that the photos I'm taking aren't just of a hairy hand with a moisture reader.
Blurry. Can't tell if it's an 8 or a 5. Yeah.
Streaked across. We have a really good tagging and inventory system, and you know, we don't rely on our own work product. We provide it, but it's there to bolster up other people's work products, to validate that they're doing the right thing. Those checks and balances are really important in the insurance claim process because it's still very much the Wild West out there. Again, you can go on anybody's website and see 5-star reviews. It doesn't mean anything anymore. You need to vet with that. I like to tell people I can't guarantee outcomes, but I can refer you to over 300 clients with successful stories, and you can speak to any of them. They're all happy to talk with you. I have happy clients at the end of the day. And that is after surviving the trauma of insurance companies piecemealing out settlements over the course of a year. I also have to say, I don't think every claim requires representation. The vast majority of them get settled without dispute. This is why I do such a strong vetting process before I sign with people. I'm looking at whether or not it's reasonable for all parties before I get involved, because the worst thing that I could do is agree to get involved in a claim where my fees now impact their ability to repair their home. I'd much prefer that they get as far as they can before they actually talk to me. And I offer up that advice for free to everybody. Here's what I would do in your situation. Call me back if it doesn't work, or hire me now and have clear disclosure on what my fees are going to be and how that impacts you in the future. There's still very much a need for public adjusting just for the convenience of it. I manage all the correspondence. I complete a clear and cohesive claim file. I use CRM software that you can log into and review all of my correspondence. data logging is a huge problem, especially when you're looking at older generations that are not really able to use computers. We live in a
Yeah.
digital age. I'm really good with those 75-year-old plus clients.
Yeah, that brings me to another thing. Before we started this, you said the phrase choose your hard. So how does that pan out in your business? How do you choose your hard inside your own business?
Okay, so I got like three buckets. Say I've got a task on my desk. The anxiety of not completing that task is hard and it produces nothing. The anxiety of making sure that task is done perfectly takes too much time and it's exhausting. The rewarding feeling I get from checking that box and making sure that a work product has been put out in front of the insurance company or the insured or whoever's requiring me to do something, even if it's not 100% complete, I have OCD. I want to make sure every I is dotted and T is crossed. But to do that appropriately, sometimes that extends timelines and it upsets everybody. So it's like a doorstop. You have to find the balance for any three of those buckets there, right? I can't always get to a task up front, and I have other more important tasks that I have to put in front of it. And that itch that I get from that box being left unchecked, every Monday morning, sit down and I write like every single claim, 2 or 3 checks that I have to make. And then by Friday, I check them all. And if I don't check them all, I'm working into the weekend. But that's all based off of self-accountability. Nobody's telling me what to do. Nobody's telling me how to manage my life. I just take it seriously. I understand that the problems that I've invited into my life are from clients that need help. I don't look away from that. I don't let that become so overbearing that I do nothing. There's that decision paralysis that millennials seem to be so plagued with. But choose your hard, right? I think that there's a quote that aligns with this, but they say like divorce is hard, so is marriage. Choose your hard. Starting a business is hard. Working for somebody else is hard. Choose your hard. Making money is hard. Being poor is hard. Choose your hard. But too much of anything is not a good thing either. So right now I'm working on balancing caring about me with the needs of everybody else in my life. I'll say it again. I know we did it when we talked earlier, or said it when we talked earlier, but I've insulated myself from having issues in my own life so that I am more available for the issues that I do need to tend to. And I've done this in a way that not everybody agrees with. I'm purposefully ignorant with current events. I don't need daily news headlines. I don't care to get embedded in political conversations. I don't have social media. I'm not constantly updating myself with too much information. The focus in my life is tending to the people with the problems that have employed me to assist with their claims. I have a lot of problems. None of them are my own.
That is the best place. It's like everyone has their own issues. Why invite someone else's issues, even if it's from some famous person with a last name that starts with K or Real Housewives? Like, why would you bring in drama when everyone has enough that they haven't dealt with themselves? So I like that idea of kind of isolating yourself from that and just keeping your head down and dealing with the things that you actually can influence the outcome of.
Yeah, I mean, in this, I'm with my psychology degree. I went to SDSU, got this psych degree in industrial and organizational psychology. It works a lot towards project management and leadership training, and that was the original goal in getting this degree, was to go out and do public speaking, to encourage business owners to treat their employees better. That I had built this model about investing in your employees increases dividends of their investment in you, instead of trying to cut costs and make things work for you and your own profit margins. I used to lead teams up to 60 in the Coast Guard, and my supervisors would get really frustrated with me because I would turn really poor performers into high performers, but I did it without screaming and yelling. I did it through a reward-based system, and I would get in trouble for leaving work to go get my team Gatorades after they completed their jobs and everybody else's jobs because I didn't ask. And I just thought it was such a high level of hypocrisy. I thought, I'm gonna leave the Coast Guard to teach people how to do this differently.
Well, you can start your own company. You can't start your own government.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot easier to affect change by starting my own business. And I kept fighting with business owners and other employers to do things differently. And I'm like, what's their incentive to change what they are doing based off of my recommendations? They don't know what value or experience I'm bringing to the table. So the goal has always been to build my own company. I had no idea where it was going to land. I didn't know that I'd be working in this industry, but I'm happy that I landed here. It was through serendipity. So yeah, the journey continues. I'm far from finished. I'm nowhere near retirement. I have 5 and 10-year goals, but I've landed in a field of work that I want to continue to develop in. I have this license as a public adjuster, but I'd also like to be a building consultant. I do consulting work where public adjusting may not be applicable. And now I'm going to dive into appraisal. So being available for all of those buckets, I think will help raise awareness, increase influence. And then on the wayside, what I'd really like to develop is a platform that people can educate themselves from before they have a loss. I think it would be so cool if every insured, before I walked into their home, had videos before the loss, just walking through, so I understood the differences between the damage that they're suffering now and the condition of their property prior. But nobody does that.
So to wrap up, I want to ask you one question. If you have a homeowner or a property owner sitting across from you after something catastrophic has just happened to their property and they're overwhelmed and they're scared, they don't know who to trust, they don't know what information is valid, what would you want to tell them about why you're there in front of them?
So again, I've been told by a lot of people that I over disclose. I think it is really important how they file their claim and they claim the damages, right? So one of the things that I understand now is that in reporting your claim, if you can include multiple coverages in reporting the claim, yes, I'm going to need housing. Yes, I'm going to need a reconstruction of the property. Yes, I'm going to need contents to be managed. This out the gates is going to escalate the authority of the adjuster that represents your claim from the carrier side. And I have in the past filed claims and been put with a small loss adjuster on a large loss. And then you have to wait months for it to escalate to an adjuster that's even competent enough to adjust your claim. So setting up the framework at the onset of a claim, if they don't want to work with me immediately, on most house fires, it takes me about 2 weeks to sign a contract with people. I'm offering a service long before I even present a contract to them. I just want to be helpful, make sure that they understand that I can be of value. And if they choose not to work with me, that's fine. I've left you with more than I came to you with originally, right? So the advice that I would give to a homeowner is do your research. Don't trust somebody knocking on your door. Ask if that person that's knocking on your door is the person that's actually going to be representing you, or if they're just a salesperson. Ask for licenses, check for insurance, make sure that you're asking for referrals from prior clients of these vendors. Again, there's an entire ecosystem that feeds off of the insurance claims process. Not everybody that knocks on your door is an altruist. Not everybody that knocks on your door is interested in helping you. It's a billion-dollar industry that is 100% for profit, no matter what side of the fence you're on. And that is a balancing act for most. It is really easy to make a lot of money in this industry if you have no code of ethics. It's a scary truth of it. I work really hard to align myself with people that care about the work that they do. We do that vetting process before we even bring people in. I always tell company before I work with them, like, just give me one opportunity to work on a claim with you. We'll know really quickly whether or not we'll be able to work with each other. What's one claim a year? F around and find out. That's my motto.
I love it. As a former Jersey girl, I have to say that's pretty ingrained in my DNA. So I love it.
Yeah, there's a scientific way of saying it too. It's like, test your hypothesis and find out, right?
I like the other way better.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I want to thank you so much for appearing on the show today and letting everyone know your views on the industry, what you bring to it, how you've set up your business, and kind of where you're going forward. So thanks.
Yeah, Lynette, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I love the work that you've done. I've been following you for years. I think it's so cool that you're bridging out to see how other people are running their companies and just being available as a mentor and a resource. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. That was sweet. Thank you. And unsolicited.
I'm Lynette Young, and I believe a rising tide raises all boats. That's why I'm here. That's why this show exists. If this episode helped you, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube Podcasts so you don't miss what's next. Leave a review to help other entrepreneurs find us, or visit us at 7seasvoyage.com. It's 7 like the number. Thank you for joining me on the Entrepreneur's Voyage. Fair winds and following seas.